We know the people are really important at the early stage of a company. The
Yep.
product market fit is very important. The business validation, the business model validation is very important. But to what extent, when you are speaking to early stage startups, so you said pre-seed to Series B, to
Yep.
what extent is their intellectual property story important when you're counseling them on different financing strategies? To what extent is their IP story important?
The way I think about IP is really broad, because IP, intellectual property, is a very broad concept, right? We're talking about kind of all of the ideas and creations and works that a person comes up with, or that a team or a company comes up with, whether, fixed on paper or not, or, in a product or not. We're talking about all the things that people contribute from their minds into the creation of a thing, right? And I think some folks think about IP more specifically in terms of the different categories of legal protection that are available for intellectual property, so patent, trademark, trade secrets, copyright, and everything outside of those formalistic systems, they don't necessarily think about as IP. But as a startup lawyer, I kind of think about all of it, right? Everything that you have as a founder, that you've built, that you've created, everything that you've discussed, designed, ideated, is your intellectual property, and it all has some value. And I think it's really important for companies at early stages to have an IP story. Now, your IP strategy is distinct, I think, from your IP story, right? So you may not ever have filed anything with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And you may not have any filed or registered IP, but you have IP. And it's important to protect the IP you have. It's important to get those NDAs signed when you can. It's important to, one area this comes up a lot, where this comes up a lot, is in the context of founders and ownership of a startup, right? So when founders get together and they're forming a company and they are deciding who owns how much of the company, it's important to understand people's IP contributions and to ensure that, we have buttoned those things up and that we are clear about who is contributing what to the business, and that we are compensating people for those things, and that we're getting paperwork that reflects those arrangements, right? And not to sound super lawyerly, but I think for early stage companies, that's something that your investors are going to care a lot about. So just as much as they care about the IP that is in the product, like as much as they care about your trademarks, your patents, whatever you have copyright protection of, the things that you own formally, they're going to also care about how you think about different individual people or service providers' contributions to your company, right, and to your business, and to ensure that you have been managing that properly all along, that it's clear who owns what, and that there aren't going to be questions down the road. So it's kind of a different way of thinking about IP. I think it's not super cool and like fun and exciting in the way that some people, I think of IP. But as a startup lawyer, right, one of the most important relationships that we help founders think through is, what have your employees contributed to this product? And have you made clear
Yeah.
that the company owns those contributions? Have you made clear what contributions the company doesn't own, and who has the right to use it, and when, and for how long, and the circumstances around those contributions? Because when your investors come along, they're going to dig into all of that, and they're going to want to know that we've done the work to make sure that that's in order. And then, of course, there's the actual product, and there may be things that do require a more in-depth analysis or registration or thinking about your brand, right? So getting my founders on the phone with my trademark colleagues to have them run searches and make sure that the brand name that you plan to use for your big product or for your big launch isn't already being used in commerce by another business that's in the same space as you, right? So just thinking about things like that. Founders have really brilliant ideas for what they're going to call their company, what they're going to call their products, what they're going to look like. And it's a real big downer when you build this whole campaign and then you realize someone else actually has rights to the thing that you built, or there's something that looks or sounds or feels really similar to it, and that might open you up to potential IP infringement exposure. So those are kind of some of the things that we help early stage companies think about, and it's really important.